this. So how many people have heard of Gilbane before? Awesome, awesome. How many people here, maybe I should know this, are in a construction or construction-related field in their business? Helps me get to know the room a little bit better. I know quite a few familiar faces, but so we're a 140-year-old contractor. We consider ourselves to be a construction manager. And in our industry, like what is the designation between the two? It sounds the same, similar. So we do not self-perform any work. We do not have carpenters on the payroll. We do not have plumbers on the payroll. We bid and contract all of the particular aspects of construction, from plumbers, pipe fitters, painters, you name it. Okay, so so the success of your companies it helps us succeed, right? And so when we are procuring our work to put work in the field, that is our that is our reputation. You become our reputation. So we do have a very strict process for how we procure work.
That's on the construction side.
That's
right?
On the construction
Now,
side.
what about the service side?
So we don't procure a lot of services. We might procure some surveying services to use on our construction site. That's about it. We're a $5 billion company now. We have a lot of in-house services. Over 140 years, we've acquired a lot of in-house self-help.
Now,
Right?
I'm just thinking we have some designers in here, architects.
Sure.
We have people that provide printing
Sure.
documents.
Sure. Yep.
Is that a procurement service, or is it through different managers?
In terms of design, that's typically our client is responsible for their own design, what they want to procure. In terms of in-house printing, we do a lot of that ourselves. We have a sales and marketing department within our company and all this sophisticated equipment to do that. There might be a special contract here and there that we might do if it's something particularly sophisticated. An important point, so in terms of the construction side, right, which is my forte at least, we buy what we call packages, right? So we're not buying individual parts of the work, we're buying packages of work. So what does that mean? A good example is electrical, right? So we want to bid out an electrical contract. We are buying all of the electrical work through one contractor, and he or she may be subcontracting all the different elements. So the supply of the wire, the supply of the light fixtures, if there's a separate contractor beneath that electrical contractor that does fire alarm work, we don't engage with those people directly. We buy it all as a package through an electrical contractor. And that, very similar approach for painting and wall covering, those are lumped together with one particular contract. Site work, you name it. So it's not like we go out and buy the wire, or we go out and buy the asphalt, or we go out and buy the road cones or signage. And those are all packaged with roll up under larger contracts. And that is simply an efficiency measure and an ease of doing business. Like if we were to procure each one of those individual things, our labor would be so much higher on the job, our overhead. So that's an important distinction, because a lot of times, I don't necessarily like that that's the case, but a lot of times, folks come up to me and say, I'd like to sell you X, and it's like, I'd like to buy it from you, but that's not how we procure those types of services. So that's kind of an introduction. In terms of how we procure those services, so we have, similar to the example that you showed for Blue Cross Blue Shield, we have our own proprietary procurement cloud-based system. It's called iBidPro, like iPhone, iBidPro. And we do all of our vetting of all of our suppliers through the iBidPro system. So you essentially sign up, you create a profile for your company, you have to fill out our pre-qualification questions, which are extremely thorough. Again, it goes back to, you are doing the work on Gilbane's behalf. It's very important that we do that vetting. And we don't necessarily, at the time of bid, have the capacity to do the type of vetting to solicit a proposal from you with your capability statements and your past projects. We've already done that vetting. We know what you're capable of based on your yearly updating of our pre-qualification for your company. So when we solicit bids, it's a number. You're giving us a number and your qualifications if you feel like certain things are unclear. But we do not, and another important clarification, like we don't take we don't press print on bid day and take low bidder and sign them up. Construction industry is way too risky to do something like that. So usually, we take a short list of low and qualified qualified bidders. We sit down with them, review the scope of work, review what they have included. Do they have any questions? Now's the time, because otherwise we're going to sign you up for this number. So there's a very thorough post-bid review process. So it's really important that that number that you're submitting isn't a dartboard number. It's like, you know what's in it, because we're going to sit down. If you're low and qualified, we're going to sit down with you, and we're going to make sure you got it all in there, because like I said, it's there's too much risk not to do that. Yeah.
Questions for Greg? Next 5 minutes that you might have.
Do you procure for marketing and photography or those type of things?
We typically do not. Like I said, we have an in-house sales and marketing department where we hold a lot of those services in-house. We constantly do sales and marketing, through our various pursuits or our publications. So it made more sense to us for us to keep those people on the payroll than it is to procure those services individually.
And so, the interesting thing that you're hearing is that what's their process and how they do business. And so those are the things that, we try to help people out. And so if you are looking to work with an anchor, it might be good, pick up the phone and call Doris and say, listen, I'm looking to work with Lifespan. And do you have a contact I could talk with, because they could tell you about the process, just like, we just give you a sample of what Gilbane does. But it's important because, like you said, you might want to provide a service, but they don't have a process for that, because a lot of stuff is in-house. Question, yes?
You guys have a mentoring program also, right?
We do have a mentoring program. I'm not particularly in charge of that, but I could answer a specific question if you have any specific ones.
Just curious on what types of bills you guys do.
How the process works. And I can take a business card from you if you're interested in participating. That's probably the best way to do it. Yeah.
Thank you. Johnny?
What's up, Johnny?
What's going on, Chris? So my question is, you have CM, you don't do any GC at all?
Hey, before you, what's that? Because everybody might not know. All right, here we go.
General contracting, yeah.
Right, so you don't do any
So, yeah, it's kind of, it's words at that point in time. It's basically the same process. A client hires us, and we hire the subcontractors.
for you guys.
Correct, yeah, we don't do a lot of lump sum bidding, correct.
Now, the next question is, you have special projects division,
Mhm.
right? Can you talk about that?
Mhm.
I mean, I know it, but.
Sure,
people
yeah, no,
don't know.
absolutely. That's a great point. Thanks, Johnny. So, a lot of people think that Gilbane is the, $100 million contract to build a ground up hospital or school somewhere, and we are that. We do that, but we also do, jobs $500,000 and up, and we do that relatively recently, in the past 10 years or so. Recent in our 140-year history, but in the past 10 years or so, we created the Special Projects Group that actually started here in Rhode Island, in our Rhode Island office, and it's now, that business model has sort of made its way out to the various other offices, but it's basically a small projects division. So we do smaller work, and like I said, it might be 500,000 and up. We do a lot of programmatic work. In other words, we're very heavily involved with Bank of America and all their branches. We might do, $50,000 job in one branch and a $100,000 job in the other, and they might roll up into a $5 million yearly program. So, you're right. That's a great point. I think what you're getting at, Johnny, is just because you might be a small contractor, it doesn't mean that you can't work with Gilbane. A large amount of our work is large construction work, but there's certainly opportunities for smaller contracts. $50,000. For $20,000 or $10,000 painting contracts and that sort of thing. There are some opportunities there. Yep.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question, John?
Last question, and
I
then.
just wanted to add something,
Yeah.
Greg and Johnny, you're touching upon a very important point, and that's something also that we are going to be working, because that's what we call the tier 2, the subs. So let's say that your company doesn't have the capacity for that project or for that proposal, then if you can partner with a big, larger corporation, and then you become the sub.